In this lesson, we'll take a look at the for loops in Java. Now, if you look at the for loop that I've got in this little program that I've written, it does nothing more than simply count from 1 to 10 and out from 0 to 10 and outputs the numbers that it counts up till. Now, just to prove that, I'm going to compile and run my program in JGrasp, and there we have it. It counts from 0 through 10. Now, to get a better understanding of how this loop actually works, we need to look at this line which has the for. Now, the line with the for is the line that controls the loop. What exactly is going on in this line here? Firstly, we have the for Java method, which actually is one of 4 different types of loops that we have in Java. The other types are the for each, the while, and the do while loops. Now, the first thing that we see inside the for loop is this: int I is equal to 0. Now, the I is an arbitrary variable name. It's an integer variable. We are declaring the integer in here within this bracket, and we are initializing it to 0. Whatever the number that we initialize it to at this point is the number that the loop will begin counting at. So we've started it at 0, hence when we look at the output down here, Java starts the count at 0. If we change this to 1 or 2 or any other number, then Java will obviously start to count from that number. So this is the starting point. The next clause in the for loop comes here: I is less than or equals to 10. Now, this is a conditional check. It's checking if each time the value of I changes, is I less than or equals to 10. Now, if it finds that I is not less than or equal to 10, in other words, if I is 11 or more than 11, then the loop will stop. So this is the condition to keep the loop running. As long as this condition returns true, the loop will continue running. And the last clause in the for loop is the I++. This is to increment the loop. Now, if we notice down here in the output, each time there's an output, I is being incremented by just 1. So from 0 to 1, we have an increment of 1. From 1 to 2, we have an increment of 1, etc. So this is what is doing the actual incrementing of the values of I. So put together, these produce the loop. Now, the line that's actually doing the work is the system out print line I. We are simply outputting the I variable each time. So the most recent value of I is going to be inserted into the output every time this loop runs. Now, just to get a better understanding of how this loop actually runs, let's try to think the way Java does. Now, when Java comes into your main method and the app is running, the first thing that Java does is to come into the for loop and create this variable, integer variable I, and set it to 0. The instant it does that, Java goes to the second clause, which is to check, is I less than or equal to 10? As long as I is less than or equal to 10, it will continue the loop. So at this stage, we know the value of I is 0. So this clause will return true. Hence, we will go into this loop and we will system out print line the current value of I at this stage, which is 0. Hence, we have the 0. When Java comes to the end of this line, it goes on to the next line, and to the end of the loop, it goes back into the loop into this I++ clause. So I is incremented by 1. So where I used to be 0, now I becomes 1. I holds the value 1. And the moment I passes the increment stage, it goes back for checking. Now I has changed in value. Is I still less than or equal to 10? Yes, I is still less than or equal to 10 because I is just 1. Hence, continue the loop. So it's true, continue the loop. The second time it comes through down to the loop, system out print line, print to the screen the value of I, the current value that is being held in the variable I, which is in this case 1. The moment this line is over, we go on to the next line. End of loop starts again. I++, I becomes 2. Now the moment I becomes 2, we go back to check. is I less than or equal to 10? I is less than or equal to 10 because I is 2, so go and system out print line, and it continues this way through 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now let's look what happens when I is equal to 10. So I is equal to 10, system out print line I, Java prints out the I which is equal to 10 and comes back, it comes to the bottom of the loop, goes back to the top, and now I is incremented. I plus plus will cause the value of I to change to 11. Now the instant the value of I changes, we go through the condition check. Is I less than or equal to 10? In this case, it will return false because I is now 11 and I has exceeded the condition that has been set here, is I less than or equal to 10. So this condition will return false. Hence, the loop will be avoided. Java will skip the system out print line and go to the next line immediately after the loop which is there, and hence the loop has ended. Now to understand this loop a little better, just to recap, if we look at the first clause in the for loop, this sets the starting point for the loop. This sets the ending point. So we can set this value that we have here set to 10 to any value that we want. If we want to count 20, we set this to 20. And this, of course, is the incrementer. This is what is causing the value of I to increase. We can cause the value of I to increase in ones or in any other number that we want. Let's say we wanted to increase the value of I by 2 each time to count in 2s, or by 3 each time to count in 3s. This is where we'll make the change. Let's demonstrate what happens. First, let's change the starting point to 5 rather than 0. So we change that to 5, compile our code in JGrasp and run it. See what happens down there. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The starting point is 5 because that's the starting point that we've set. Now let's set the ending point. So rather than 10, I'll change that to 20, compile my code and run it. Right? And when I've run my code there, it starts at 5 because that's the starting point that I set, and ends at 20 because I set it to less than or equal to 20. So as long as it's less than or equal to 20, it'll count up to 20. And now I'm going to start again from 0, but this time I'm going to change the value of I in 2. So I'll set it as I plus equals to 2. This is a short form of writing I is equal to I plus 2. In other words, increment I by 2 with each iteration of the loop. Compile and run it. So there we have it, 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 through 20. I can also change this to 3. Compile and run it. And there we have 0, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. Of course 20 is not going to be printed because 20 is not a multiple of 3. So this is basically how you would handle a loop. And we need to remember that whatever is within the loop, in this case it's the system out print line I, will be done as many times as we iterate through the loop. So if we change system out print line I to system out print line, for example, hello world, then hello world will be printed as many times as the loop iterates. Now let us see if we can guess how many times Java will print hello world. So we are starting at 0, we are going up to 20, but we are counting not in ones but in threes here. So we're going to count hello world as many times as we have numbers at the bottom here. So 0 will count as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Alright, so our guess is that Java will print hello world 7 times. Let's see what happens. And I'll run my code, and there we have it. Hello world 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7.